The book of Genesis, the first book of the Old Testament, lays the foundation for the history of humanity and God's divine plan for salvation. It begins with the creation of the world, followed by stories of human sin, divine judgment, and the establishment of a covenantal relationship between God and His chosen people. Central to the narrative are figures like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph, whose lives exemplify faith and obedience to God. These stories also set the stage for the emergence of Israel as a nation under the leadership of Moses, who delivers God's people from bondage and receives the law at Mount Sinai. Genesis not only introduces the origins of the world and humanity, but also points forward to the larger story of salvation, culminating in King David and ultimately Jesus Christ. 1. Creation of the world. Genesis 1:1-2:3. God creates the heavens, the earth, and all living things in 6 days and rests on the seventh day. 2. Creation of Adam and Eve. Genesis 2:4-25. The first man, Adam, and his companion, Eve, are created and placed in the Garden of Eden. 3. The fall of man. Genesis 3:1-24. Adam and Eve eat the forbidden fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and are banished from Eden. 4. Cain and Abel. Genesis 4:1-16. Cain kills his brother Abel out of jealousy and is punished by God. 5. Birth of Seth and descendants. Genesis 4:17-26, 5:1-32. The lineage of Adam through Seth is recorded, marking the beginning of people calling on the name of the Lord. 6. Noah and the flood. Genesis 6:1-9:29. God sends a great flood to cleanse the earth, but spares Noah and his family through the ark. 7. Noah's sons and the sin of Ham. Genesis 9:18-29. The story of Noah's sons and the curse on Ham's descendants. 8. The Tower of Babel. Genesis 11:1-9. Humankind attempts to build a tower to reach the heavens, but God confuses their language and scatters them. 9. The call of Abram. Genesis 12:1-9. God calls Abram, later Abraham, to leave his homeland and promises to make him a great nation. 10. Abram and Sarai in Egypt. Genesis 12:10-20. Abram and Sarai travel to Egypt during a famine, where Abram claims Sarai as his sister. 11. Abram and Lot separate. Genesis 13:1-18. Abram and his nephew Lot part ways to avoid conflict over grazing land. 12. Lot's captivity and Abram's rescue. Genesis 14:1-24. Lot is captured by kings, and Abram rescues him with an army. 13. God's covenant with Abram. Genesis 15:1-21. God establishes a covenant with Abram, promising him numerous descendants. 14. Hagar and Ishmael. Genesis 16:1-16. Sarai's servant Hagar bears Abram's first son, Ishmael. 15. The covenant of circumcision. Genesis 17:1-27. God establishes circumcision as a sign of his covenant with Abraham. 16. Destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Genesis 18:1-19:29. God destroys the sinful cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, but Lot and his daughters are saved. 17. Lot and his daughters. Genesis 19:30-38. Lot's daughters conceived children with their father, leading to the origins of Moab and Ammon. 18. Abraham and Abimelech. Genesis 20:1-18. Abraham again claims Sarah is his sister, leading to a confrontation with Abimelech. 19. Birth of Isaac and expulsion of Hagar. Genesis 21:1-21. Sarah gives birth to Isaac, and Hagar and Ishmael are sent away. 20. The binding of Isaac. Genesis 22:1-19. God tests Abraham by asking him to sacrifice Isaac, but provides a ram at the last moment. 21. Death of Sarah and purchase of a burial site. Genesis 23:1-20. Abraham purchases the cave of Machpelah as a burial site for Sarah. 22. Isaac's marriage. Genesis 24 verses 1 to 67. Abraham's servant finds Rebekah to be Isaac's wife, 23. Death of Abraham, Genesis 25 verses 1 to 11. The death and burial of Abraham are recorded, 24. Birth of Jacob and Esau, Genesis 25 verses 19 to 34. Isaac's twin sons Jacob and Esau are born, and Jacob tricks Esau into selling his birthright, 25. Jacob deceives Isaac for the blessing, Genesis 27 verses 1 to 40. Jacob deceives his father Isaac and receives the blessing meant for Esau, 26. Jacob's dream, Genesis 28 verses 10 to 22. Jacob dreams of a ladder reaching to heaven and receives God's promise of blessings, 27. Jacob's marriage, Genesis 29 verses 1 to 30. Jacob works for Laban and marries Leah and Rachel, 28. Jacob's children, Genesis 29:31-30:24. Jacob fathers 12 sons, who become the ancestors of the tribes of Israel, 29. Jacob's return and reconciliation with Esau, Genesis 32:1-33:20. Jacob prepares to meet Esau, and they reconcile peacefully, 30. The incident with Dinah, Genesis 34 verses 1 to 31. Jacob's daughter Dinah is defiled in Shechem, leading to violent retaliation by her brothers. 31. God blesses Jacob at Bethel, Genesis 35 verses 1 to 15. Jacob receives blessings from God at Bethel, 32. Joseph's dreams, Genesis 37 verses 1 to 11. Joseph dreams of his future prominence, provoking jealousy from his brothers, 33. Joseph sold into slavery, Genesis 37 verses 12 to 36. Joseph's brothers sell him to traders heading to Egypt, 34. Judah and Tamar, Genesis 38 verses 1 to 30. Judah's complicated relationship with Tamar, his daughter-in-law, is described, 35. Joseph and Potiphar's wife, Genesis 39 verses 1 to 23. Joseph resists Potiphar's wife's advances and is imprisoned, 36. Joseph interprets dreams, Genesis 40:1-41:57. Joseph interprets dreams in prison and rises to power in Egypt, 37. Joseph's reunion with his brothers, Genesis 42:1-45:28. Joseph meets his brothers during a famine and eventually reveals his identity, 38. Jacob moves to Egypt, Genesis 46:1-47:12. Jacob and his family relocate to Egypt during the famine, 39. Jacob's blessings and death, Genesis 48:1-49:33. Jacob blesses his sons and dies, 40. Death of Joseph, Genesis 50 verses 1 to 26. The final chapter records Joseph's death and his request to be buried in Canaan, This is the list of major stories in the book of Genesis.